rabbis of yesteryear. Now, on Yud Chet Iyar marks the Hilula of a really famous Moroccan who would become a British rabbi at the end. His name was Rabbi Shalom Buzaglo Z'tl. He was born in the English year 1700 and passed away in 1780, naturally on the 18th of Iyar. He would compose many different great books, quoting various different teachings from great Kabbalists of yesteryear. He was one of the great Kabbalists of Morocco in his time. He would go on to become a Dayan, a head of Jewish court, respectively, of the Sephardi community in London, respectively. Now, he came from great rabbinic auspices. I believe his father's name was Rav Moshe Buzaglo. I think happened to be from Sali, if I'm not mistaken. This is a city towards a port area, the northern port area in Morocco, respectively. This was in the year 1700, right at the start of the 18th century. He would learn under auspices of many great rabbis, including Rabbi Chaim ben Itar Hazaken, a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before, and he would learn inside the yeshiva of Rabbi Avram Azulay, another great famous posek halacha Kabbalist, head of Jewish court of Marrakesh of the 18th century, respectively. And he would learn over there. And there was many great rabbis over there, respectively. I think a connection with Rabbi Yaakov Pinto, if I'm not mistaken, who happened to be, would go on to become Rosh Yeshivat Mekubalim, the famous one, and head of Jewish court, respectively. I think Rabbi Yishai Cohen and Rabbi Yaakov Gedalia, really great rabbis. Now, we can say much about the time period over there. He would actually move, I think, to London in the year 1941. It was reported over. He would actually embark there. He will go there and will get prominent position over there, respectively, which we spoke about. I believe it's reported over. His move to London was triggered by torture that was made by the Sultan, and he would go to England in 1745. I believe he would stay there for the rest of his life, pretty much 35 years after that. I think this whole came about because, owing, let's say, to voyages in the Orient, made in his capacity of collector of, let's just say, aims for the relief of the poor in Palestine, he became acquainted with chief Kabbalists of that period. Also, before that, he would visit Europe and would spend time in London before he made the move permanent. But then there was all that issue that happened, respectively. Now, many of these Kabbalist works, as reported over, would have his name on, let's say, the title page. Much of it was, I think, reported over to have been compilations of teachings attributed to the famous Rabbi Isaac Luria, the great rabbi, the Ari Kadosh, rabbi who was talking about various occasions before, one of the famous Kabbalists in the history of Tzvat and Jewish history. Also, the teachings of Rabbi Chaim ben Yosef Vital, another great rabbi. And it's been stated over that Rabbi Buzaglo would take part in discussions which would arouse much debate, speeches among Kabbalists as to whether Jews should, let's say, for example, take vaccination, for example. This is one of the topics he was speaking about. It's reported that he was in favor of it. But there's various different, there's opinions the other way also, but much can be stated within regards to that. Hopefully, maybe I'd recommend everyone to do it. I think there was a famous book, the Mikdash Melech, which we will talk about in the next few minutes. I think it was actually the editing of this book was a commentary on the Zohar, Mikdash Melech. I think it was printed actually in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And I think various different commentaries reprinted the book in Europe, and it was put on the desks of many of the great Rebbes all over the world. And I think it was compiled from 3 different sources, which was reported over what mentioned Rabbi Yaakov Pinto, Rabbi Yishai Cohen, and naturally it will contain teachings of Rabbi Avram Azulay. I think part of Rabbi Moshe Zechut's work on the Zohar, I think called Mikdash Ha'av, if I'm not mistaken. Rabbi Moshe Zechut was another great rabbi, I think of Portuguese origin, who we mentioned about on various occasions before, that actually ended up in the Netherlands, respectively. I think he would, the third collection of this book will be writings of the famous Arizal, as I mentioned before. He would speak with regards to amulets quite a bit. And I think there was a famous robust between Rabbi Yonatan Eibschwitz, who happened to be a rabbi and a Kabbalist and head of yeshiva, very much famous Ashkenazi rabbi. I think he was rabbi of Prague also, and the Yavetz, another famous rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Emden. There was robust debates at that point in time, and I think there would be some sort of discussion or speaking. He would communicate with them. Also, the great rabbi did. Now, he passed away, reported over on May the 23rd in 1780. We're talking about 245 years ago. here from the time of recording. Now, he would be buried, I believe, in near the Queen Mary University, I believe, in Mile End area, a place we've spoken about before, I believe, that had strong Jewish connection in that area, if I'm not mistaken. We said that his first book, Mikdash Melech, was printed in Amsterdam, and I think various different corrections were made to the book during his lifetime. Reprintings were made, various different chidushim was actually added to it at later stages in time, and it was probably one of the most famous books, without a doubt, we have to point out. Then there was another great book called Kiseh Melech, which is a Perush on the Tikunei Zohar. I think this was first, once again, also printed in Amsterdam in Taf Kuf Chavtet. Then the Hadrat Hod Melech, which is Perush on the Sifra Tzniuta. And then there was Hadrat Kavod Melech, which is Perush on various different drashot, sermons, I think from the writings of the Arizal, famous Arizal. Then there was a Hadrat Pnei Melech, which is a Perush, another great Perush in himself. Rabbi Shalom Buzaglo on the Rambam. I think this was printed in London, respectively. I think through the Atar, the place called the Otsar Chochma, if I'm not mistaken. So he was a very famous rabbi of his time. Rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. I would recommend everyone to look into it. He had various different kuntruses also. I think we could kuntros Maser Adonai Ki Nora Hu. I think, for an example, it was an appeal to the public concerning the authority of, let's say, a judgment of a lawsuit. I think it was actually written in Judeo-German in 1774. There was other works, Hod Melech, which you mentioned about before, and Kiseh Melech, which you mentioned about, the Tochat Le Shabobim. But I think that was actually written, if I'm not mistaken, of letters to Yisrael Meshulam Solomon, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's reported that his works were mainly based on Lurianic Kabbalah, including all, let's say, scattered works of Rabbi Isaac Luria's disciples. He usually copied word for word, it's reported over, would occasionally quote other opinions, which has to be pointed out also. But it's his Hilula over here, Yud-Chet Iyar, the 18th of Iyar, famous rabbi of his time. I recommend everyone to look and research more about him, respectively. And he lived at a time period where there was other famous rabbis, including Rabbi Yaakov Gedalia, Rabbi Yeshua Cohen, Rabbi Yaakov Pinto, and a famous Moroccan rabbi. Don't forget to light candles in his memory. Friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the great Oriental rabbis of yesteryear. Now, if you happen to be descended from any of the great Chachamim we are speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe now. We're coming near 7,000 members. If you feel anyone's interested in watching these videos, share the videos to those people respectively. And let's grow from strength to strength. I wish you all a fantastic day. Take care and be well, everyone.